Welcome to the Future of Less Work, where we're piecing together the transformation of work one conversation at a time. Today's episode is special because we're coming to you live from Cisco WebEx in San Diego. And I'm really thrilled to be joined Anurag Dhingra, Cisco's Senior VP and General Manager of Enterprise Connectivity and Collaboration. I had to look that up because that was very long. Welcome to the Future of Less Work.
Thank you for having me.
It's been fascinating to see the way that you think of the way we partner today, right? Between people to people, people to AI, and also AI to AI. And you're right in the middle of that. I've heard some of the announcements that you're making on how we can finally offload some of that stuff that we don't like to do to teammates that are not us, right? I'd love to hear your vision for where do you think this is going?
Yeah, so, obviously we're in the age of AI right now. And when we think about what does the future of collaboration look like, it's clear to us that AI is not just changing the nature of work, it's changing the nature of the workforce itself. And this is where when the digital workers, these agents of today, as they start to do more and more complex tasks, they start to do work like you and I do.
So you're calling them part of the workforce.
We're calling them part of the workforce. They're not quite there today. They do very simple targeted tasks today. They require a lot of feedback from humans, but over time, they will mature to take on more complex tasks. They'll be able to do things that we do as part of our work. And then we'll be able to treat them like true digital teammates. And when that happens,
tell me that story. I mean, describe what's your vision
Well,
for what that would feel like?
You're right. So I'll give you a very easy to understand example today. OpenAI introduced ChatGPT that told the whole world, the capabilities of large language models and amazing things you could do. But now you have this ability to have deep research done on your behalf, where you can give instructions to an AI agent. It'll go out and do a bunch of research, come back 20 minutes later. You can go grab a coffee or you can join a meeting. And this agent is working on your behalf, come back with information. So that's a very simple example of the type of work you can start to offload to AI agents. You can have an AI agent write software code for you. So as a programmer, I can assign it a task. It will write a bunch of software code, and then I can review and approve it. So these are just examples of the type of work that is already possible. And then going forward, all of us will be able to leverage these digital workers, these agents to do
So
more.
what does that do to us? Because you're speaking this, and I'm a geek, so that's easy for me to say, yay, can we please find more of those examples, right? But there's so much fear in the environment.
Right.
What do you think is going to be our unique role in this?
Right. So I think there are certain things that humans are really good at, and I think they will continue to be very relevant in this future. So people-to-people interactions will continue to matter. And this is why when we talk about our vision for collaboration, it includes making people-to-people communication, people-to-people connections even richer. But that it also includes humans collaborating with AI and AIs collaborating with other AIs to get work done. So when I talk about the composition of workforce is changing, it's going to require us to solve for all of these different communication between humans and AI.
So let's take this one level down, because I've seen some of your announcements, and we can start with the human AI.
Right.
Some of the examples of things that.
Yeah. So we are launching a whole array of agents now as part of our product. So in the WebEx suite, for example, you will have agents that can take notes for you when you're having a conversation. And it doesn't even have to be an online meeting. You and I are having a conversation. We can put our phone down and it can take notes for you.
I heard that and I said, wow, because we're used to by now. We're used to transcripts of meetings on digital space, right? But you were saying no, it's like we stepped into a conference room, had this, unscheduled one-off meeting. And this thing took notes.
It took notes, and if you happen to have one of our video devices in the conference room, you can just push a button and the video device is the note taker for you now.
Yes.
And so that's one example. But imagine you're in a meeting working on something with your teammates, and then this polling agent that we have introduced pops up and says, hey, this would be a good time to take the pulse of the room. You've been talking about a bunch of risks in your project. Here are 4 questions to ask the audience. Should I launch a poll? And so that you get real-time feedback from everyone. Like that's another example.
I had my HR hat on when you presented this. And I actually remember when COVID happened, one of the things we told people is they tune out on video calls, especially long ones, right? And one of the ways to kind of pull them back in is ask anecdotal questions. But it's hard. it's
It
hard
is.
to stop and think about it, and you're managing a meeting, and
And then you break the flow of the conversation
right,
when
and
you do that.
introduced. I was listening to that. So you're introducing an AI initiated pause in the meeting that basically
Exactly.
says this. This would be a good time to ask this question.
Right,
So I
right.
know you're calling it polls, but I was thinking it's a lot more. It's
It is,
actually an
it is really
engagement.
around engagement. It is really
Yeah.
around engagement. But you have offloaded that work like you had a digital team member in the meeting with you, thinking about what's the right time to ask this question, what type of question should ask, how do I trigger engagement. That's true digital teammate working
Right.
side by side with
And
you.
another one I loved, and that kind of leads us to the person to person one. So for those of us working in the global space, right?
Right.
And so we're not necessarily in headquarters,
Yeah.
Being that one-off kind of box on the screen when everybody's in a room was a
Right.
terrible
It is.
experience.
Terrible experience, yes.
And you've been working
We have
to
been.
close
We
that.
have been. So we have this philosophy that we call distance zero. And the idea is simple. When some of us are in a room and others are remote, we should have technology drop the barrier of time and space between us. That's the mission of distance zero. And we've been delivering building blocks towards that vision. We have our cameras have vision AI built into it. So they can capture the right people when they start talking. Or you can stand up and start walking around in a room and the camera will follow you, or you want a zoomed out view of the room. All of this is possible today, but you have to switch between these modes by clicking buttons somewhere.
Right. And one thing you said, and I'll stop you there just for a second. One thing you said that really caught my attention, the people that need me to do that, they're not me. So they're out there. And so
Right.
I'm in the room and
Right.
I'm really comfortable. I mean, everybody's right here
You're
with
happy.
me.
Yeah.
So I basically put it on that auto mode and leave it there.
And leave it.
And so you want to switch that.
Right. So our goal was to hand over this function to AI and imagine how movies are made. You have multiple cameras, we have cameras here, there's a director that's deciding which angle to transmit and capture. That's what we were codified in AI now. We're actually calling that agent director because it is in service of delivering an amazing cinematic experience to everyone who's outside of the conference room. And so the AI can decide the right camera angle, pan, tilt, and zoom, really frame everyone intelligently. If people start to have sidebar conversation, how do you capture that and transmit to everyone who's outside of the room? That's true magic.
And that's it's not about looking right. It's about this distance zero concept. It's about making me feel
Like you're there.
like I'm there and I can contribute
Exactly.
regardless of whether I'm in
Exactly.
the room with you.
And you get the full context, right? Because if all you're seeing is the active speaker, you're missing the context that you and I are sitting across from each other at the table. There are 5 other people there. And when another sidebar conversation starts happening, this crosstalk, you hear it. But you're losing the context of who's participating.
Yeah.
And what are people reacting to in the room. And so that's the distance we want to remove between those in the room and those away from the room.
So I was really happy to speak with you today because you're actively working to change that workspace being both physical and digital.
Right.
From all these announcements that you've got going on, which is the one you're most excited?
I think it's hard to pick one, so maybe I'll pick 3. How about
Okay.
that? So I already talked
So we
about
probably talked about my favorite.
I talked about the polling agent. That's actually one of my favorite because of the engagement angle that you're talking about. We talked about the AI director in a conference room. That's another favorite of mine. The third one that I want to talk about is this idea of an agent for customer service. And we launched a voice agent for our contact center business earlier in the year. And now we're packaging up that technology and bringing that to small and medium-sized businesses and enterprises everywhere as part of our calling product line. It's called the receptionist. So you can call in, it hears like a human, listens like a human, speaks like a human, can answer questions, and take actions like you want to schedule an appointment or cancel something. Can do those type of things. So I'm really, really excited about that capability because that helps people scale beyond the constraints of how many working hours they can put in.
Yeah, and we know that that's probably just a gateway because voice is the new keyboard, and we should be communicating with the world, and it should be talking
Right.
back to us as
Right.
opposed to us learning its languages,
Absolutely.
right? So you're a senior leader in this organization. When you talk to your people or your family out there,
Right.
what do we need to do to stay relevant?
to stay on top,
relevant
to stay relevant. So look, I think
as humans in
as
this
humans,
game, right?
I get it. So I feel like the progress going forward will be humans and AI collaborating with each other. And so humans' role is twofold. One, as coaches for AI. AI really doesn't have a context for what's right and what's wrong. Only humans can set the goals, and humans have to be accountable for these actions that we are taking collectively. So that's a key role. I mean, people talk about every employee today, every knowledge worker today will become a manager of AI agents. The way I like to think about it is humans will continue to define shared goals. Humans will continue to define what's good for us, what objectives we want to accomplish, and then leverage AI to deliver on that. And that's the partnership that I think is going to
So
be
we should be
fruitful.
teaching people to, so individual contributors, right? We should be teaching people to actually manage,
Yeah,
because we used to teach managers to manage, but you're managing a team now.
you're
It's
managing
just not
teammates.
human.
Right, and I think those who can successfully make that transition will be the leaders of tomorrow, and being able to work in a mixed environment, a mixed team of humans and AI is really the key to unlocking success. The other thing I'll mention is I think humans are still really good at empathy. Humans are good at relating with each other. Humans are really good at aligning around shared purpose. And those things will remain really critical. Creativity will continue to be very critical. And in some ways, instead of being fearful of this, I like to be an optimist. I like to think about all the things that we're not able to do today. What could we accomplish if we had infinite capacity to do work? And that's the future that I'm looking forward to, where these digital teammates help us scale way beyond our current
What we're
capabilities.
able to do. What about your managers? What do you expect them? How do you think management is changing?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting viewpoint. Like, if you imagine a team fully comprised of digital workers that can work nonstop 24 by 7, I mean, management becomes a very different thing for that. Management really becomes around aligning priorities and goals for these digital workers, and still keeping accountability as a leader for the outcome that you're trying to deliver. And then what you have to do is you have to make sure that you don't create shadow structures of AI agents where the alignment across the organization is still very critical. What are we trying to accomplish? That part of the leadership will remain very, very critical.
Yeah, I mean,
going
the idea
forward.
that I'm working with my team and you're working with your team on the same thing, that's used to happen, can still happen.
That can still happen. And in fact, that can happen much more in a much more pronounced way now, because there's no constraint of capacity. One of the things that stops us from doing this today is there's not enough people. So there's sort of some natural constraints on how much duplication you can run into.
And we're also blowing up roles and responsibilities and the way workflows are done. Do you see this happening already?
I think
within
we're
your
still
teams?
in very, very early days of this. I think most of the organizations are trying to figure out how best to navigate this, how best to prepare their employees to live in this future that is clearly coming at us. And I think we're still in the very early days. So everyone is trying to figure out how they need to transform their processes, how they need to figure out the set of skills that they need to be successful going forward, and what's the technology stack that's going to make them successful. So I think we're all collectively going through this transition.
So I find this very interesting because you've got this dual perspective, right? On the one hand, you're powering some of
Right.
those tools, you're powering tools that have to do with communication and
Absolutely.
enablement, right? But on the other hand, you're leading an organization.
Yes.
And so people need to transform at individual
Right.
levels, at team levels,
Right.
at structure levels,
Yeah.
and org levels.
Right.
Does it help that you're doing both sides?
It does. It does help because we're building these products. It gives us sort of a frontline seat for what's possible today and where the technology is going. So you can start to imagine the possibilities. That gives us insights to you as a leader on what you need from the organization and the transformation you need to drive. Look, it's very clear to me that going forward, there will be organizations who embrace AI and find a way to leverage it to its fullest potential. They'll be very successful, and others will probably become irrelevant. And that's the profound thing that we all have to sort of internalize as leaders, and make sure that our organizations are being prepared to succeed and thrive in this world, and not become irrelevant.
We talk about organizations, it's like a third party thing, but if you take it to the individual,
Right.
there's a lot of fear in the system.
There is.
How do we enroll people and
Yeah.
engage them
Right.
to sometimes chop off their own, their own branch.
It is difficult. There is a lot of fear, but this is where I like to take the optimistic viewpoint of like, what are we not able to do today? And if we didn't have these constraints that we have today, what would we accomplish? And that's sort of the higher order goal. But then I think in some ways, if you do not embrace it, if you do not lean in right now, you risk getting left behind and becoming irrelevant. And it's not just about the organization, it's about individuals as well.
Yes.
Because someone out there is trying to figure out how to do your job better than you by leveraging AI. And so it's in your self-interest to learn and reinvent how you do your job, how the processes that you leverage need to transform. And you better take that in your own hands versus someone else deciding and taking it away from you. So my guidance to my teams are lean in, invest in your learning, take control of your own destiny by becoming proficient with AI. And we are in the technology industry. So, I mean, we have a little bit of an advantage that we have a front row seat at how this is playing out. And I believe that we need to, as leaders, make sure that it's clear to our organizations that this is where we need to go.
How do you learn? We never have time. I mean, it's like usually, I think about our work day, right? I mean, so where did you get the time and what did you do to free time so that you learn? Because I'm pretty sure you need to hands-on do some of this stuff.
Obviously, I have to invest in learning as well. There's no question. All of us do. You have to make time for it. Ultimately, it comes down to trade-offs and priorities. I think it's way more important to do a few things right and really, really well than just produce a bunch of stuff that is subpar, right? So prioritization is a key skill that I think all leaders have to figure out.
Always needed.
Always needed. And then prioritizing your learning is existential. And that's a core belief that I have. So you have to just make time for it.
Do you think that leaders like yourself can role model somehow the I don't know, mark for the organization? Here's where we're going in terms of you need to transform.
I think that's a really good trait that any leader can have, which is lead from the front, show the organization how to do a number of things. I aspire to do that as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully my teams can see that I'm investing in my learning, because honestly the pace of technology is so fast right now. So just keeping up with that is requires a significant time commitment. But then not just keep up with it, develop unique insights that take your business forward, that take your teams forward. That requires
and transform
investment.
Actually and implement. Okay, so just kind of as we start wrapping up, when you look 2-3 years ahead, what's your vision for what it would feel like to be in this digital and physical workspace?
I think predicting the future is an extremely challenging exercise.
I know, I used to say 10 years. Now I said 2 years. That's not a lot.
I think anyone who can tell you what is coming beyond 6 months is probably lying.
That's
they just don't know, right? But look, I feel like we will be in this mixed team environment with humans and digital workers. And I think we have to figure out how to most effectively operate in that. So investing in learning right now is going to pay some dividends in the future.
That's probably a really good closure here. So where can people go find more about the products, WebEx announcements?
I mean, you can go to webex1.com, which is a microsite set up for this event, or you can go to webex.com or cisco.com. You can find all of our announcements out there.
Awesome, and LinkedIn, right?
And LinkedIn, of course.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for joining us on The Future of Less Work, where we're exploring the ever-changing puzzle of work, coming to you live from WebEx in Cisco's WebEx One in San Diego this week. And remember, the best people do not work because they have to. They do not work because you measure and monitor. You tell them to. They work because they want to, because by working for you, you're doing what's important for them and love. Till next time.